You're about to witness all of Neeko's mechanics, combos, secrets, everything spilled out. I'm Doglightning. I'm a Grandmaster Neeko support main, Peking Challenger 3 times with 3.9 million mastery on Neeko, and I'm here to show you some brand new mechanics, specifically some in her W, so make sure you follow the channel, comment any of the mechanics I might have missed to get featured in the next video, and check out my stream. I stream 5 days a week and would love to meet you guys. You know, there are some bugs that are not in this video because I don't want Neeko to get disabled, but sometimes I use them in games for fun, so make sure you follow. Maybe you'll witness some of those. The first trick is that you can use Neeko's passive without clicking. As you can see here, hand off my mouse, I am changing my passive without clicking on the keyboard. You can also disable whichever one you have selected with another keybind. To do these keybinds, you need to be in practice tool or game. It doesn't show up in the client. You go to hotkeys, abilities, and summoner spells. Scroll down to the bottom. Look at champion interactions from 1 to 6. 1 to 5 are your passive, and number 6 is the one that removes your currently selected passive. Speaking on Neeko's passive, you also inherit stats from the person. You inherit their base attack speed, their attack range, and their move speed. As you can see, my move speed is 330. If I turn into Renekton, it's 345. If I turn into Caitlyn, I will have longer auto attack animation. As you can see, I am autoing from here, and if I turn into Neeko, it makes me walk forwards. Another interesting thing is if you turn into melee, your auto attacks count as melee, so I can execute with my relic shield, but also you can do it with a mid-air auto. If I auto attack this as it's half HP and turn into a melee, it's going to count as a melee auto even though that auto was technically ranged. You can also use the melee auto attacks to do increased bonus damage to tower plates. Tower plates take 20% bonus damage from melees. The enemy sees you use ulti if you go invisible with W, but they do not see it if you put your passive up. Until my passive breaks now, the enemy doesn't see, which means at the very start, they won't know when you're casting ultimate as long as you have passive up before you cast. Neeko's passive can pick up many different things like minions, and even jungle camps, wards, and various different things. But did you know that Neeko can pick up the jungle camps and go invisible on the minimap? If you turn into the small Wraith, the small medium Krug, and the small Wolf, you do not show on minimap. So in this form, the enemy will not even see me as a dot on the minimap as I walk over wards, and this is extremely important. If you turn into any of the big camps, for instance Gromp, you will show on the minimap, but you will only show up as a little small yellow dot, which is still hard to see. But TLDR, turn into the small camps and become invisible on the map. So a problem you might know on Neeko is when you're trying to apply your passive and it keeps switching. But if you turn into someone on your team, now it will only select one target, making it much easier to select who you want. This is very useful for when trying to go into minion waves and you're trying to gank a lane and get there just in time. So instead of going like this and it's like keep selecting new minions, I can turn into Cassio. Look, even when I'm touching this, it'll still lock the minion I wanted. So I can perfectly sneak into a minion wave and catch my opponent off guard. Never miss a minion wave again, because honestly, that was the most frustrating part about Neeko, I'm not gonna lie, so you're welcome for saving you all that frustration. There are too many things you can turn in your passive to really talk about all of them, their best use cases, but I will give you 2 of the best ones in my opinion that are underutilized to use Neeko's passive. One is control wards, blue wards, and zombie wards. It's very unlikely that the enemy team will ever think anything of it, and if you pretend to be a control ward, you'd be surprised how many times people will just walk straight into you. The other one is the honey fruit. The honey fruit specifically are very good because as the enemy team is coming in and you're doing dragon, you can hide in the most obvious spots, and as the enemy funnels in again, a lot of the times they're not going to expect you and you're going to be able to surprise them from out of sight. Maybe in the future I'll make a tier list over the best things to turn your passive into, so let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in that. Finally, something very important to use Neeko's passive for that you should always utilize is BM. BM is such a strong part of Neeko. You should know every single champion in the game and their best emote spam, and I'm not even kidding, it's just fun and tilts the enemy, but also blue buff. Blue buff has a dance. Trust me, there's nothing more tilting than when you dodge a Blitzcrank hook level 1, you have the blue buff from when you leash, and you turn into a blue buff and just start dancing in their face. Or you throw your W down and make it dance in their face while you go off to roam and they think you're sitting there dancing and being annoying. Trust me, it's really annoying and it does more than you think mentally to the enemy. If I missed any tricks with Neeko's passive, let me know in the comments and maybe we'll make a round 2 of this video if there's enough things I missed. Neeko's Q has 3 bounce conditions. One bounce condition is if it hits an enemy. It will bounce 1, 2, 3 times. The other condition is if it hits a big jungle camp, it'll bounce all 3 times. The final condition that will make Neeko's Q bounce is if it kills a minion. So here it'll bounce once, twice, and 3 times. But if it doesn't kill a minion, well, I've got too much AP right now is the problem. If it doesn't kill a minion, it doesn't bounce. An underrated way to use Neeko's Q is for checking bushes. I can Q over the wall here, and since it's bouncing, I know someone's in that bush without even have to put myself in a very dangerous position. Okay, now for the new mechanics. Trust me, you probably don't know some of this, so make sure you pay close attention, but we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. So starting with the basics, your clone can now copy things like recall. Now there's problems with the recall. After you recall, there's a delay before you can move again. So if you're trying to like block a thrush hook and then you can't move for a second, you are hurting yourself. Fortunately, you can use emotes. Emotes have a very little disable time, so I can use my clone and go, and there's only that little stutter step like that. Now fortunately, shown to me by someone named Ares, there's actually a keybind that can get rid of the stutter step. It's very good. If you look under communication, you can see I've swapped my toggle and my joke. So usually the joke is the helicopter, but I've now switched my joke with my control 5 and made my toggle control 1. So actually if I try to helicopter right now, I don't even helicopter, but if I use my clone does helicopter off this, meaning that it actually gets rid of the stutter step, meaning I can clone without any stutter step. And I'm going to show you how to make it follow me in a second. That's a little sneak peek of what's to come. So yeah, make sure you go set that keybind up, because in my opinion, getting rid of that stutter step is really important. And if you want to just use that on yourself, I just set it to control 5 and I can still do it if I want. So as you saw, I can make the emote move. So I can make it emote and I can make it follow myself. I can make it move to enemies. I can even make it move to enemy towers. This can be very, very useful as I can send my clone into the jungle. I can make it emote and then I can send it to the enemy tower. And it's going to go through the jungle and face check bushes and go towards that tower. Now, how do I do this? Well, again, looking at your keybinds, we need to go into our keybinds and go to the player movement. You have pet move click. For me, I have it control click, but you can set it to whatever you want. That's how you make the clone move once you've put it in the animation. So all I'm doing is I'm using emote, and then I do that pet control move, click under myself, it moves to me, click under an enemy. It can only move to enemies or myself, not to allies. But yes, you can make it move to yourself, so I can do that, and then I can make it go and follow me and block any thrush hook. Imagine a thrush was behind me trying to hook me, and I just go like this and make it follow me. No longer can he hook me. So this is a very important mechanic to master and get used to for not only blocking skill shots, but sending it through the jungle into towers. So this is where it gets crazy. This guy named Ares added me on Discord and wanted to show me this trick. So the basis of this trick is the fact that when you use your clone and use an ability, you see how Neeko does the Q animation. While she's doing this animation, it stops her from being able to helicopter emote, but it still does the extend. So if I go out and I Q helicopter, now it's going to be an extended clone, but it's also going to walk and look like Neeko. But did you just see that? Instead of having the condition where you have to send it to yourself or towers, if you remember with the clone, I can only move it to enemies or myself. If I try to make it move here, it won't move. That's the brilliant thing about this animation cancel. So I can WQ emote, and now I can move the clone anywhere for the extended duration. I can go on my minimap and just click there on my minimap, and it's going to go all the way up and just go to wherever I clicked. Compared to the helicopter, I have to send it and I have to go look and click. This one, you don't have to do that. I can literally be over here and I can go, okay, time to go scout that, right? I can go Q emote. I can just control click my minimap, and now Neeko's going out there, and I can still focus on what I'm doing while Neeko goes and checks the jungle. Abusing this, we can even go a bit farther. You can add in a recall, but it has to be really quick. See, if you do the Q animation and then try to recall while she's not in the Q emote, it's going to cancel it still. But if you do it quick enough, you go Q emote and recall, we're in the recall and it moves. Be careful, I'm going to keep clicking to show you what happens. If you don't stop clicking near the end, it'll cancel your recall, so be very careful. This is very useful because if the enemy is pushing up and you're trying to sneak a recall, you can go like this and send your clone out and make it look like you're over here doing stuff, but realistically, you're going for a recall. The final useful thing about this is to understand that your clone does not die from taking damage when you use this trick. So I can go over here, for instance, just to show. And now you can see the clone will stay alive the whole time. If it takes damage while you're setting this up, it won't work. The reason this is important is because for Dragon, you can make it tank as long as you time it between the Dragon's things. So here I go for an E emote, and now I got it on the extended, and it's going to last the whole time. Yes, that's right. I did it with an E extend instead of a Q. It works with both Q and E, and you can use it to fully tank. It's harder to do this with Baron because there's more splash damage and stuff, but if you do it correctly, you can also fully tank Baron with this trick. So yeah, try to start doing that. Speaking of tanking, a really obvious trick is you can use it to tank towers. So I can go like this and follow behind my clone to come in for a flank ulti behind the enemy. This is extremely useful, and I even use it sometimes in the reverse end, where I'm pushing up on the enemy, the jungler is coming to gank from behind, and you can even use it to just run through the enemy tower and escape into the enemy jungle. One thing to note about Neeko's W is that it cannot block for the first 0.5 seconds. So if I try to walk under, you see I'm taking damage right away because I didn't wait long enough. You have to wait half a second before you can go. So I wait 1/2 second and now I can block. This also goes for blocking enemy skill shots. You cannot just react to a thresh hook and W to block. You have to predict he's about to hook and throw out your W in advance, and then you can block it for yourself. Another cool trick is misdirection. So when I go invisible, I can turn into a minion. So while they're looking at the clone walking around, I blended into the waves that all of a sudden I can come out and attack them. Remember, since you go invisible when you push W, you can turn into a minion, and because they're distracted by the clone, they won't notice you slip into a minion wave right in front of their eyes. The last W trick I'd like to show is for AD Neeko enjoyers. It does get stacked by runons. So here you can see every single auto right now is an empowered auto because the side builds each count towards the 3, meaning that auto can be empowered every single time. Really useful fighting enemies in a minion wave with runons. Okay, Neeko's root. So if you didn't know, Neeko's root gets extended after hitting an enemy. What this means is that anyone after will get double root. This is root ended, but this one is still going. This is really important. As a root into R, the root ends before your R can land, but if you do land an empowered root and then R, the root will be long enough so that you can true combo it into your R. A nice trick is actually once your root gets maxed out, you can do this without the extend root. So as you can see, I have my root at rank 5, and if I throw a root and it connects, I can R, and now it'll be a true combo, but this is with no tenacity. If the enemy has tenacity, they can break this combo. That's when Everfrost comes in really handy. When facing champions who like to get tenacity, for instance a champion like Kayn, you can throw your root, ulti, Everfrost, and lock them into the ulti so that they can't dodge it. Finally, the last trick with E is it's actually a buffer, which means you can flash. So instead of flash E-ing, you start the E and then flash. So I E-flash. And it actually means that it's quicker. Pay attention to the speed difference, right? The E-flash compared to if I go for a flash E, do you see that delay? The enemy has time to dodge. So start getting used to going for E-flashes. I'm gonna be real, I didn't even know this was a thing till I was a diamond player, so it's perfectly easy to climb without using this, but trust me, it's a game changer, just E-flash. Another cool thing, by the way, is you can actually Everfrost flash, so that's also another one. Okay, Neeko's R. So the first trick I want to show you is the fact that Neeko's R can actually cancel your Q animation. So what that means is that during your Q, you can't actually move because you see the cast time down here. Now, fortunately, you can cancel that animation with the end of your R. So if I throw my Q now, I can throw it and my ulti will cancel the animation. This is useful because the enemy is getting knocked up. That means they can't dodge the Q, meaning they get knocked up while the Q is bouncing. Then you root them, the final bounce goes off, and then your Q is on cooldown and gonna get a second rotation of Q up sooner, which by the way, in a game I did this combo and I barely got my Q up in time to get a kill before I died. And yeah, it's pretty pog. So again, you R, and at the very last second, Q. So as they're being knocked in the air, the Q is under them. The next trick is the R flash. Because Neeko's R has a knock up, it means that if you flash at the precise moment, especially if you have passive ups, they don't see it coming, you can flash straight into the knock up and it'll knock them in the air and lock them into the CC. We can now combo this with the Q trick. So we can go for an R, flash Q to lock them into the Q underneath with the R knockup. Another cool trick is that people like to run Rocket Belt on Neeko because you can R into a Rocket Belt and hit the enemy. You can also R and then flash Rocket Belt. But a cool trick to know if you're doing the timing right is that if you Rocket Belt at the right time, you will see 2 circles on the ground. So you can see here, I go like this, there's only 1 circle. But if I wait to the very last second in R, see how there's 2 circles on the ground? And the same with the R flash Rocket Belt. You got the right timing, there's 2 circles on the ground. This means you have the perfect timing down. And there is different timing for the Rocket Belt version, the R and the flash version, and the R Rocket Belt flash. So playing a lot, oh see there I didn't get the double circle because I didn't get the timing right, and the R Rocket Belt flash. There's different timing between all 3 of these, and I'd recommend just getting used to them until they become natural. Another tip is you should never ever throw your Q before your E out of the R. So if you aren't doing your Q right away, you should E into Q right away. Because if you take a look, if you try to Q into E, there's actually a moment where they're not CC'd and they can flash or dodge it. So always out of your R, start spamming your E key so make sure that you CC them straight out. Noted, if the enemy has tenacity, they can reduce the stun on your R and dodge the E anyways, which is kind of frustrating, but it is what it is. Okay, finally some HexFlash combos. Now, I'm not saying HexFlash is the best rune on Neeko, but it's pretty good and underrated, and if you like HexFlash, you should try it out. So the first thing is if you HexFlash into a W, you can go invisible and get farther distance. They only see you here. They'll only see a little smoke bomb animation, but they won't see your health bar or your character. Now, if you didn't notice on the side, it also bugs Neeko's clone out and makes it run super quick. As you can see, this is me trying to run at the same speed, but look how far the clone goes. Now, you can use this as a mechanic to scout bushes and stuff, but there's actually more. So think about the potential if we combine this with our emote cancel mechanic. You can go like this, HexFlash, really quick, you can Q emote, and now you have a crazy fast clone that you can use to check multiple bushes without even leaving the safety of mid lane. I just checked this bush, this bush, this bush, this bush, and this bush, all from here with one clone. So yeah, again, right? And you can go for the Q ammo, right? And then I can send it to that bush and then just chill, and it just checked half the jungle for me. So yeah. Again, sorry to self-promote, but it really helps if you would follow the channel below. If you have ideas for more things you want to see, let me know. Make sure you like the video, and guess what? I stream on Twitch, and again, there might be some bugs that I didn't put in this video because I don't want it to be abused that I sometimes use on stream, naughty me. I don't usually explain how I do it, but you might pick up on something, so I stream 5 days a week on weekdays. Make sure you follow the stream. Peace out, guys. Or I guess I should Neeko knee, guys.